Alright, hello there, this is Vi. I'm checking out Awoken. Now, here's the deal. Unfortunately, I just recorded like an hour-long video of this, and then I realized that the video wasn't in the capture, so it was completely useless, sort of waste of time video. I apologize for that. I can't really give that to you as a proper playtest video, so in lieu of that, and I know this is a poor substitution, but I'm just going to make another video here, and I'm just going to kind of ramble off some of the things that stood out to me the most in terms of feedback that I can provide. So it's just going to be random stuff that I remember from before, and that's it. I think I'm just going to, try and give you something useful out of the experience here. So yeah, so I already played this for a bit. I'm going to go ahead and start right here with this menu. So this level select menu is a little confusing to me. My interpretation, I guess, of what I'm seeing here is that, like, on the left here it looks like we have like a game mode, and then on the right here we have like a level select. So I would assume I click on a mode, then I go in here and I select a level, and then like I'd have a button that would be like start game, something to that effect. But it seems like anytime I click on either anything here or something here, it like sends me into a level, which is really confusing. So the first time I played, I was like, oh, okay, and I clicked on this just to kind of see what would happen, and then suddenly I'm in the game, and then I was like, oh, that's confusing. And then the second time I'm like, okay, I want to like look at the levels. I like clicked on a level, and then suddenly I'm in the game, and I'm like, it's a little confusing. So I don't know if it's just, obviously everything in here is very work in progress. Everything feels very work in progress. Just like missing features and details and stuff, but that was a little confusing. So I think I don't know, I think these are like real levels. Then if I click on this, there's like an arcade mode, and then I guess it's random. I don't know what random is, some kind of random level deal going on. And then we have, this is something about custom levels, which is interesting. You can like load your own levels in the game and stuff, but I didn't try this. This might be useful for playtesting, I guess. Oh, there's enemies and stuff. I was hoping it wouldn't spawn enemies. Well, that guy's quite durable. What the heck? Oh, it was my, it's gonna take... Is that him talking? What is this music? Alright, you know what, I'm not gonna mess around with this. I gotta try and... This isn't getting me anywhere with the goal of the video here, so go back to menu, let's do level select. I'm gonna go ahead and click on arcade, I guess. Actually, okay, quit to menu. Whoops, I clicked one too many times there. Which is, by the way, that's something a little weird that you can look at. So if you like try and leave a level and then you click and then it brings you back to this screen, it can kind of like instantly send you, I keep going back to like this sometimes. Like if I click too early, then like before I even see this screen, I end up in this menu. So that might be something you could fix. But I think if I click on this, right, this tells me some controls. Oh yeah, there's a whole tutorial in here, which I thought was interesting because I didn't expect that. Overboost, I don't know what that is. Fortress mode, I didn't try. So like a lot of the stuff isn't mentioned in the tutorial, so I didn't actually try some of these things. Debug spawners. Oh, why is it back? Oh, play tutorial. Alright.
System.
What on earth? Hold on. G is overboost, F is fortress mode, raises defense. Okay, so that's some kind of a shield thing. It just looks quite strange. Alright, yeah, I think that was the only things that I hadn't really tried apart from this debug spawner or whatever. Okay, so things I can mention. So we've got this left and right boost. So for one thing, if I do the inputs but I let off the keys, it doesn't like complete the sideways dodge. It kind of just stops early. I'd like to see that kind of do a consistent dodge rather than... I don't think I'm really gaining anything by like being able to control how far I dodge left and right. If that's kind of what the idea is there, I think I'd rather it just be consistent so I don't have to worry about like accidentally not getting a good enough dodge out of it, if that makes sense. The other thing I noticed is like if you do that and you keep holding the keys, it keeps making this boost sound, but it's not actually boosting, so it makes me think that I'm like I can just kind of like boost sideways forever or something, but it's actually just walking still. It's just the sound of it is kind of misleading. But I can boost forward and then I can boost around forever. So I think this is just, the developer probably didn't implement a limit to this yet, but because I can also just hold this down forever and do that. By the way, how do I get through this door? Oh yeah, you're supposed to, I forgot you can blow up the doors. I'm saying that because when I was playing before, I like encountered a door and I couldn't get through it in one of the levels, and I just completely forgot because it just mentions it briefly in this tutorial, and I had no idea you could actually shoot that door to get through it. They really don't look like something you would have to shoot to get through, so target practice. And here I was mentioning it's pretty easy to like accidentally shoot the walls and stuff. And this is something that would happen in Hawken, which if you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about, this game has some inspiration taken from the game Hawken, so but yeah, that can be a little bit problematic. Oh yeah, and this thing, the trajectory of this is kind of funky. So, so my expectation if I have like a grenade launcher thing like this is like if I want to shoot it further, I can like lob it up like that, but it doesn't like go up where I'm aiming for some reason. It doesn't seem to like take the vertical aim into account. It's kind of goofy. I don't know why it's like that. I did notice that the weapon changing is kind of slow.
Shotgun.
So you have this transition between each weapon, which is in itself, you know, there's a little bit of time there, just waiting for the next weapon to come up. But the thing is, like, if I want to go like
Railgun. Gatling. Shotgun. Railgun.
if I want to switch like 2 weapons ahead or something, if I'm on weapon 1 and I want to go to weapon 3, I can't just like I can't switch directly to weapon 3, and I can't just hit the button twice fast to go like more quickly to weapon 3 and that kind of thing, because I have to wait for I have to wait for it to transition to weapon 2 and then wait for that to transition to weapon 3, you know, so it kind of like the time sort of adds up. Oh, what was that?
Shotgun. Railgun.
Well, maybe you can do it a little bit quicker if you have the right timing or something.
Shotgun.
Wait.
Railgun. Gatling. Shotgun. Railgun. Shotgun. Railgun.
Okay, alright, so it seems like if you wait for a little bit and then you can press it again, you can make it go a little bit faster. I did not figure that out until now, so it's interesting. My entire playtest before, I didn't figure that out, so it's just kind of a weird timing thing. I guess it goes a little bit faster, but yeah, that's a little bit awkward. Trying to switch, like if you have a particular weapon in mind, you kind of, it takes a while for you to switch, which in the context of a fast-paced first-person action game, you kind of expect to be able to do that a little bit quicker usually. Something to keep in mind. Picking these up was a little janky. I guess it's a little particular about, I don't know, the first time I tried to pick this up, it was like, it took me a few tries, and then there's like no indication that you're picking anything up. Also, when I was playing in arcade mode, I was seeing these things appear on the ground, and I had no idea what they were. And it didn't seem like I could pick any of them up, which I believe was, I don't know if I just couldn't, like my inventory was already full and I couldn't pick any more up or something, because there were just weird things lying on the ground. They didn't seem to pick up. I don't know what this thing is. It doesn't seem to go away when I walk over it or anything. This whole thing about equipping an item and then pressing R to use it and using the mouse wheel, like I couldn't figure any of this out. Like I don't know what clicking on any of this does. This is click to equip items, but I don't see anything happening. And then like when I go back and I'm using the mouse wheel, like mouse wheel doesn't seem to do anything that I can tell. But if I press R, it does activate the items. I guess this time it activated the shield, but I don't know. Oh, okay, so I spun the... Wait, that's... This is a turret, right? And that's not any of these. So I don't know where that came from. But it looks like if I spin the wheel, it does do something, and then I can press the button. I just don't see anything on the screen or anything like telling me what's going on, so I don't know if this just isn't finished in its implementation or whatever, you know. Maybe it's just still a work in progress, but I can't really figure that out. The jump pads, I noticed there's like these particles shooting off them, which I thought was like giving a direction that the jump pad would launch you or something. Also, it's my expectation that most games, like first-person games, when they have a jump pad, is like you just walk over it and it just kind of like launches you as soon as you touch it, kind of thing. Where here you have to actually press the jump button. I noticed, which isn't wrong. It's just to be aware that there's like an expectation there, or it can be a little bit confusing. If maybe you could put like an on-screen thing when you step over it to press jump or something. That might help. Then there's enemies that spawn in here, and here's where I was like noticing how you're like you can't aim down very far, which can be problematic in certain situations depending on how the levels are designed. I don't think there's like really a good reason necessarily. I guess I'm noticing that the weapon is clipping into the ground a bit. Maybe that's a reason. If not, there's other ways you can deal with that, by the way. Same thing at the walls. I also noticed I think you could like shoot rockets through the walls and stuff. Like that actually showed a bullet hole, but you can see it's not blowing up. Oh wait, I'm clicking the wrong button. All right, I clicked the wrong button. Yeah, so at the right angle here, it's not. Presumably it's just going through the wall into nothing. There's other ways to deal with this kind of stuff, but limiting your up and down, the angle you can look at. I noticed multiple times where it's like obviously right here. I guess I don't know why those guys are dead already. I don't know. I don't remember killing them, but yeah, it's annoying when you can't like look down where you need to. There's another part in the levels that I tried where it's like there's quite a lot of verticality, so there's parts where it's like you can't look down, but I ended up falling down into this place, but like I couldn't really see down there to like see where what I was getting myself into, you know. So end of the tutorial. So let me I want to like see what else I can remember. So the big thing was just in general, it's a little hard for me to kind of get this idea of where the threats are coming from and stuff. Like when you have this big arena and there's just enemies spawning all over the place, it's really easy to end up with these situations where it's like I'm focusing on, you know, I'm shooting at these enemies over here or whatever, and then like all of a sudden I'd realize that there's some enemy like right here biting me in the ankles, you know, and it's just like I had no idea. It's just one of these things that could be kind of tricky in like first-person games and stuff. You have to put some attention into the idea of giving the players some situational awareness and just being able to like tell where the enemies are and stuff around you. Now there is a radar in the top left, which I haven't used very much just because I'm not focused on that part of the screen really. Obviously it's better to have something like that than to not, but I wouldn't rely on that entirely, you know. So some things you can do, definitely the sound design can help a lot. Just being able to hear the enemies around you. At the moment, I don't think you can really hear them walking around or anything. So that's one thing that can help a lot. Just being able to hear their presence, you know. Same thing with any missiles flying around. Just being able to hear those fly through the air and stuff. Obviously, this is stuff that takes time to implement, and you might expect that more would be done in the future, but definitely, you know, this isn't stuff that you just add for the sake of making the game seem complete. It really affects the game design significantly. It's kind of what I'm trying to get across, because it really you should be thinking about those things when you're doing sound design, or just, you know, selecting sounds for the game or whatever, of how it is kind of communicating these things to the player, because it can add a lot for your spatial awareness. Other thing I was thinking was, like, you can have some. I also noticed these are a lot bigger in arcade mode versus the power-ups that drop. They're a lot bigger in this mode. But yeah, another thing I was thinking is you could consider having some more like visuals to indicate stuff that's off screen, like if an enemy is shoots a missile at you or something from over here and you're not facing that direction, maybe you can put like an on-screen indication, be like, you know, heads up, there's something flying at you, that kind of thing. There's all sorts of ways you can give the player more information. Did he do a side dash, or was that, I think he might have gotten launched by the explosion there. But yeah, I would definitely focus on that kind of communication. Try to give the player a lot of awareness about the threats around him. There is like a... So when you move the reticle on an enemy, it has like this highlight that pops up. Which, by the way, I think the lower part of it clips through the ground. Yeah. So you might want to figure out a way to kind of render that over the ground or something, but, you know, render it in screen space maybe. But one thing in Hawken that I really like that they do is like anytime there's an enemy on screen, they basically put like a big red box like that around the enemy, and what that does is it just provides a lot of visibility that you don't necessarily get from the graphics. So in Hawken, everything is kind of brown. You know, it's not the least visually clear game out there necessarily, but you know, the visuals themselves are kind of, you know, designed to look a certain way. It's an aesthetic, and then they add these like nice bright highlights and stuff, so it really serves the gameplay, because as the player you can always know that you can see where enemies are, and even if they're like really far away, that's something I really like about the game, because even if enemies are really far away, the game really still lets you know, like, hey, there's an enemy there, and it gives you that clarity of the line of sight, so there's no chance you just don't notice, you know. And providing that level of information to the player does a lot, I think, for, you know, helping the player feel like they're understanding what's going on in the game and everything. So here, where you only get the highlight when you hover over something, a lot of times enemies can kind of blend in and stuff. Some of them don't really stand out just because they... For one thing, you have some of this dark lighting and stuff. Sometimes there's other things that kind of obstruct them. Sometimes it's just kind of the way that the chunky geometry looks, where the enemies don't really stand out from other random things in the world, you know. There's just little details like that, but if you can, you know, some small things like just having those highlights and stuff can really can make things very unambiguous, you know. So that's something that's worthwhile, I think. What else I remember? So there's different weapons. A lot of them are quite slow to cool down. It actually worked. Oh, by the way, I got stuck behind that spawner thing. I like jumped into it and got behind it. So this lock-on missile, I figured out that apparently you just point it at an enemy and then shoot, and then it kind of works. It was a little confusing at first. I didn't really understand how it was working, the locking on effect. I don't think it was necessarily... Like, this is one of these things that's been done in so many games, like this idea of locking on to something with a missile, and it's usually just very intuitive, like when you're locked on or not, that kind of thing. Whereas here we're not really getting that. We get the sound effect, which kind of, you know, it definitely helps more than nothing. But usually we have, you know, some kind of visual indication that shows like, okay, it's locked on to an enemy. That makes it really clear. There's also something I think is kind of nice. Some games do this thing where you have to kind of hover the reticle over the enemy for a moment before it'll lock on, that kind of thing. You don't necessarily have to do that in this game, but that's something some games do. The other thing I think that can be nice is if you have like, if you lock onto an enemy, maybe I point the reticle at an enemy and then it locks on, then maybe like for a moment I step away, maybe step away behind cover or something. If there's like a second or a half second or something where it kind of keeps the lock on that enemy, even if I move the reticle away, that can be something that's kind of, it can be a nice little wrinkle for the gameplay, but it can also kind of help with the just the concept of being locked onto an enemy, kind of communicating that idea to the player and that kind of thing, if that makes sense to you. That could be something nice to add in. But yeah, having like a little, you know, some kind of like little visual outline or something that shows up when you're locked on or something. Looks like we have, I guess there's like a green box. Wait, is this, that's my second. Yeah, I guess. See, I didn't even notice this before, but it looks like there's like an additional little green thing that shows up when you have this equipped. But yeah, see, I haven't even noticed that before until now, how much I've been playing. So it's one of these things where, what the heck hit me from over here? Was it like, must have been like a missile hit the wall or something and the splash damage hit me, something like that. Alright. Oh, that's okay. I'm looking at the damage indicators that like pointing up in this direction and that direction, like it's not really telling me useful information. I don't know which things were hitting me, and there's some ankle biters here. So yeah, you have to be careful about the way you're communicating things here. And so just in general, I noticed while playing the first time that the all these little details about communicating stuff is kind of the stuff I was getting caught up on. So I keep using the word communicating because it's one of these things that happens when people play games, is that they don't realize how much of the experience is just giving the player information that helps them to understand what's happening in the game and stuff. And what happens when a lot of people go into game development is all these little details that they never really thought about from all their years of playing video games, that they kind of they end up missing in their own game, and then it sort of, you know, creates these kind of effects where as the player it's just sort of a little bit confusing, where it's like you're trying to play the game, but the sort of visual and audio feedback you're getting isn't really telling you all the little details about the rules, like how exactly does this work, like is the thing locked on or not, or like if I shoot the weapon, like does it do this or does it do that, or you know, there's all this little subtleties that end up getting lost, and you have to realize that there's a lot of very intentional stuff that goes into games to make all of that very clear to the player. So a lot of that's kind of what I noticed while playing Awoken here, is that like a lot of that stuff is probably the main point of friction for my experience, where there's just little things where it's not necessarily communicating things as clearly as I would like. I didn't even try these ones down here. Physics, okay. I did notice that
System.
our rocket launcher here, like I keep shooting the ground in the environment with it, so like if I aim like this. One thing, the missile itself is a little hard to see like where it's flying, because I just kind of, all I can really see is some of these like random looking particle effects. So it's hard to judge where it's flying, and then like the explosion was a little bit hard to judge. Now that I'm a little bit more used to how it looks, I can kind of tell like when it blows out and when it doesn't, but the visuals are, again, it comes right down to just the communication. Making everything clear to the player, but yeah, I keep shooting the environment when it's like I'm not even aiming really particularly close to it, and it keeps blowing up on the edges of stuff like this. So I think what's going on here, and I'm aware that there's a little bit of an offset because the projectiles are coming directly out of the weapon models. But apart from that, I think what might be going on is you have like the collision is just kind of jacked up on the missiles there. So what might be happening is there's a, I'll call it an issue. There's kind of an issue that can arise when you're doing things like projectiles, where you kind of want to make the collider bigger because you want it to be more forgiving for actually hitting enemies and that kind of thing. Like, you don't want it to be like this pixel. I mean, sometimes people do this in some games, but I think it's annoying. Like if you shoot a missile at someone, like a mech or something, and it like goes right between their legs, you know, and it's like technically in reality it would do that, but for the sake of gameplay and it, you know, being fun and feeling fair and everything, you probably want it to be more forgiving and actually hitting the enemy, right? So one of the things you might do is you might make the collider bigger or whatever, so you make sure that the missiles are actually hitting the enemies a little bit more forgivingly, right? But then you might end up in a situation like this where it's like colliding with things in the environment and stuff, and it's like that's kind of the opposite of what you want. You want it to definitely miss these environment things that you're not even, like the reticle's not even really close to that. And so if this didn't occur to you already, you can have more than one collider or type of collision on things like a projectile or anything you want in the game. So I don't know if you considered that for this, like if maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe you just you only have one collider for the missile, and then that can cause this kind of issue. But yeah, you can do that kind of thing. You can have like a nice and small collider for interacting with the environment, and then have a bigger one for hitting enemies, things like that. Might help, but that was a big issue I noticed with trying to use the rocket launcher here. I don't know what else to say, so it just kind of comes down to my memory and how many things I remembered from the first time playing this, I think. Oh, wait, no. This guy... Yeah, I think this guy's bugged out. So that guy, it seems like he has a... Let me pause this. It seems like that guy that has the laser effect. I'm guessing it's like a sniper or something, like the railgun, presumably. That's kind of the sniper weapon in this game. Because the laser that kind of follows you and then it stops and then it shoots, that looks like a precision weapon, right? So it presents this idea to the player where it's like, okay, there's a laser tracking you. Obviously you want to get out of the way of the laser so you don't get hit, right? But what appears to be happening is that it just hits you no matter what. So I think that's just a bug or something in the implementation where it's just always hitting the player, because that's what I noticed before. So yeah, that's something to mention. I don't know what else to mention. There is I'm sure there's other little things here and there in the first video, but it's just a matter of what I could remember and such. So hopefully this video has been helpful. I guess what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, the only other thing I would say is that I feel like as I'm playing this, like there's a lot more stuff that's been added since the first time I tried it. And it's all like really cool stuff, and it feels like a lot more fleshed out experience, but I also get the feeling like everything is just a little bit unfinished, you know? And there's a degree to which that can be okay, or even a good thing. Like, you don't necessarily have to like add the first feature and then polish the hell out of it before you do anything else. You know, sometimes people can get caught in doing that sort of thing where they just try to make like the finished version of something before they even made the rest of the game. And that could be a problem. But another problem you can have is you just keep adding stuff, but nothing is ever really in a good state. You know, and I feel like this game is like the feature set is growing a lot, but everything is sort of like a little bit broken in some way or another. And I wonder if you could maybe it'd be worthwhile to spend a little more time on what's here, making it work well before you add more, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. That's just something that occurred to me. But apart from that, I hope that this was useful. I mentioned some things I could think of. Sorry I botched the first video. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Honestly, the game is pretty cool. It's obviously really basic right now. Like it's hard to get a lot out of the enemy interactions and stuff because the AI and everything is a little bit simplistic, and the weapons it's pretty easy to take everyone down and that kind of thing. So that there's just, I feel like yeah, it would really be good to focus on finding your core elements and making those really work good before you know, continue adding more functionality and features and stuff. That would probably be a more effective approach to going with the game here, because right now we have quite a lot of things, like all these different weapons and different power-ups and collectibles and things, and we have multiple enemy types, but I never really had a moment where it felt like the fundamental part of the game was really working in a good way, you know. So probably be worth focusing on that. Just like pick an enemy and like one loadout and just make like a little experience where it's like, okay, fighting this one enemy kind of feels good, you know. There's some methodology about it that's fun to play, you know. Like in Hawken you have a lot of this. Hawken's a little hard to go off of because they had a PvE mode, but it kind of sucks, you know. Like the enemy AI was really bad. They just never got very far on that, so it's designed around PvP. But in Hawken you have a lot of, you know, dancing around corners and manipulating your explosive weapons to deal splash damage and things like that. Also taking advantage of the rate at which the enemies can turn around and things like that. And these are things you could work into a PvE type of game, but you know, obviously there's differences there as well, and designing enemy AI can be a big hurdle, obviously. But yeah, I would say you'd probably benefit a lot from trying to focus on, you know, try and focus down the gameplay a lot into that kind of thing. Like I said, like just pick like an enemy and one set of weapons and create just little functional moments where it kind of feels like fun gameplay, and then you can start building off of that, you know, adding to that rather than adding all these features and then worrying about that kind of thing later. And you know, you really should focus on the fundamentals more, I think. But hopefully this was useful. Oh, I'm just noticing, I think you could see my reticle in the capture, right? Like these things right here are populated where they weren't in, what it was, like the tutorial level? Oh yeah, so this visual right here, I guess it just wasn't working in the tutorial. Now I can like actually see that selecting a thing, and then it's like the R key. Yeah, alright, so that kind of makes sense. I don't know why you have to go in here and click. I guess it's just because you wanted more than 3 things. And then you only put 3 slots on there, and yeah, it's kind of annoying, I guess, to have to go in here. I guess it depends on how much more you want to add to this. I don't know what you have planned, but it is a little bit weird to combine an inventory like this where you have to select stuff with kind of this in-game selector. But yeah, I guess it's wait and see sort of thing. But yeah, hopefully this video was useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope the audio isn't too jacked up. This is a new machine. I haven't done this in a while, and this is all a new setup for me, so it might be a reason why I ended up screwing up the first video, but I'm definitely gonna move on to the next one here. But yeah, you know how to get a hold of me, and hopefully it was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.